Hello, hello, all you brilliant people! We have been exploring the wonders of InstantID recently, whether it be simply taking a base photo like so, and then turning it into a photo of a princess, or perhaps a doctor, or even a comic book character. Or more recently, taking it a step further and applying a pose to your newly generated character. But do you know that we can go even further? For the next video in our InstantID series, we'll learn how to use InstantID with not one, but two reference images to create one image with two subjects. Now, though this method is approved by the creator of InstantID, just a disclaimer from him, it's still a little, quote, hacky, unquote. So there may be some more testing you'll have to do with conditioning on your end to get the exact results you'd like. But now that the disclaimer is covered, let's jump right in and begin with Compute Grid. To start, we can navigate to either the All Machines page or the All Instances page. But regardless of where you go, all you have to do is select your desired GPU and then click Start Instance. I already have an instance started though, so instead I'll go to My Instances and click my already running one. And now from here, we'll just go under Example Machine Learning Workflows to the SDXL tab and click Launch SDXL. Since all Compute Grid instances have Stable Diffusion and ComfyUI pre-installed, all I have to do is click this button and it handles all of the install and setup for me. So once done, all I have to do is click this link. And just like that, we are now inside of ComfyUI. Let's go ahead and begin though with our InstantID installs. To start, let's go to our manager, then to Install Models, where we'll then search for InstantID. And then just make sure that we have these bottom three installed. So that's going to be the Insight face for InstantID, the ControlNet, and then the IP adapter. Once all of our models are installed, instead of leaving and refreshing entirely, we're going to stay inside of our manager, but this time we'll be going to Install Custom Nodes. Here we're going to search for the exact same thing, InstantID, and install the ComfyUI InstantID for native support nodes. Now whenever that's done, we can go ahead and restart our ComfyUI and also just refresh our page to make sure that everything was safely installed and everything's there. And so once your installs are completed, we can go ahead and start by adding to our default ComfyUI workflow. But first, we're going to go ahead and do Control-Click, and I'm just going to lower my workflow, and then using Control-Click still and Shift to drag, I'm just going to cut my workflow in half. And then I'm also going to go ahead and change my empty latent image node from 512 to the standard 1024 by 1024, at least for now though. And now that we have a space carved out, let's go ahead and add our Apply InstantID node. But this time, instead of using the normal one, we'll be using the Apply InstantID Advanced node. And we'll get more into that later. But for now, let's go ahead and just chain everything together. So our prompts, which never seem to listen to me. Perfect. And then our model. Moving on, if we look at our InstantID node, the top three inputs are going to be the three parts of InstantID. So we have the ControlNet, which takes in our visual and text embeds. We then have our Insight face, which uses the face analysis to gather the details of the face. And then lastly, InstantID, the IP adapter model itself. And now next we're going to need our reference image, so we're going to go ahead and grab a load image node, and it already loaded in the one I wanted of Miss Keira Knightley. And so if we zoom out, we should see the familiar base workflow for InstantID. And if this isn't familiar for you, or you'd like a more in-depth video on how to use this workflow, our first video in the series covers it. But all this workflow needs to be functional now is just going to be prompts and adjustment on the case sampler conditions. So for our prompt, I'm just going to go ahead and keep it fairly simple with comic book superhero. graphic illustration, and just some stylistic words of what we're wanting. Comic art, novel art, vibrant colors, and I want it to be fairly detailed, so we'll just add that in. And then for my negative prompt, because I am wanting it to be a graphic illustration, I don't want it to be photograph, I don't want it to be deformed, noisy, realistic, or stock photo-like in any way. And then for our case sampler, well, actually before I move on, I'm going to go ahead and color these real quick while I'm thinking about it. And then for my case sampler, I'm going to go ahead and adjust my stats from 20 to 30. And then because we have quite a bit of conditioning that's going to be happening already, plus more on top of that, we're going to need to lower our CFG. And I'm just going to lower it all the way down to 4.5 to start. I'm also going to change my sampler from Euler to this DDPM. And then my scheduler, I'm also going to change from normal to this one that I call Keras. I could very well be wrong, and if so, please let me know in the comments. But now, if we go ahead and click Q prompt, we should get a comic book image of Miss Keira Knightley. And we do. But what if she needs someone to crime fight besides her? Well, it's a good thing we can give her a partner using an additional InstantID advanced node. So let's go ahead and copy this and paste it above. We can go ahead and chain it to the original using the same model input and output. And then it can also share all of the InstantID loader nodes with the original as well, so we can go ahead and connect those in. Just like that. And now we're going to need another reference image. So who do we want to fight besides our lovely Keira Knightley? Well, no other than Legolas, of course. Who else? And since I now have 2 images and 2 InstantID nodes, I'm going to go ahead and just color coordinate them. That way, visually, it's a little bit easier to see everything and kind of understand how everything connects. Just like so. And next, whether you believe it or not, but they also can share prompts as well. So let's go ahead and connect positive and negative together. And the negative prompt I'm going to leave alone, but I am going to adjust the positive just so it can better include both of our characters. So I'm going to just double space so I can keep our stylistic words at the bottom. And instead, this is now going to be a comic book superhero duo instead. And I want there to be 1 male, 1 female. I want the female superhero dressed in purple to match her nodes, of course. And then the male is going to be dressed in blue then. Wonderful. But now we have a slight problem. Since we have 2 positive and 2 negative outputs, but only 1 of each input on the case sampler. So what do? Well, we go ahead and use not 1, but 2 of the conditioning combined nodes. We'll have 1 that's going to be for the positive, and then 1 for the negative. Oop. There we go. And we'll color them like so. And now we can connect. Negative and negative. Perfect. And now I know this may seem dumb, but if we go ahead and Q prompt, we'll see that there is a few problems with our image. Do you see it yet? Our model is just combining the 2 faces together. They aren't separate yet. And so this is not going to fly. This isn't what we want to see. So to fix this, we're going to have to give the model more direction. For example, the direction you want our subjects to be facing. So to do that, we can just simply load in another reference image for the head positioning. So let's go ahead and grab another load image node. And I'm going to go ahead and just choose a simple pose like this one here. And this is a pose I can use for both of them, but since I still want my image to be dynamic looking, I can go ahead and flip this image using the invert image node. Perfect. So I'm going to use this invert pose for Legolas, connecting it to the image KPS on his InstantID, and then keeping this one the same for Miss Kira. And you may recall from our last video in this series, but the image KPS just stands for key points, as in key points of the face. So if we go ahead and add a face key points preprocessor node, we'll actually be able to see these face key points. I'm going to go ahead and attach it to our face analysis. I'm going to move this here. And then we can go ahead and just grab a preview image node. And we should be able to preview the face key points for this pose right here. And so now that we have our head positioning figured out, we still have one more thing. We need to tell our model where we want our subjects to be located. And that's where masks are going to come into play. You may notice we have a mask input on our InstantID nodes that we haven't used yet. So today we'll be using them by using the solid mask node. And our first one, we're going to want it to be a solid black mask, so we're going to go ahead and make our value 0. And we're also going to change this from 512 to a 1216, and then 832 pixel resolution. This is another approved SDXR resolution. We're just changing it up because a square isn't the best shape to hold 2 people. And since we changed resolution here, I'm also going to change it for our empty latent image node. 1216 by 832. Perfect. So now I have a solid black mask that can go over our entire image. But now I want a white one. So we're going to go ahead and copy and paste. Since I want this to be a contrasting mask, we're going to go from 0 all the way to 1. And then I only want this mask on half of my image, because that's going to be the half that I want to place my character. So I'm going to go ahead with my width, and I'm just going to divide it by 2 like so. Perfect. And so now we can go ahead and combine our 2 masks using the mask composite node, like so. And I can go ahead and send this mask over to Miss Knightley's, and then for Mr. Orlando Bloom here, I'm going to do the same thing we did with the invert image, and I'm just going to invert the mask. Easy peasy. Boop. Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and give this another try and see what we get this time. And notice that we actually got our key points analysis done right away, and so that's going to be where their faces should be positioned. Okay, so that's better than what was last time, but definitely not great. Yeah, this isn't going to work either. So why is that? You see, the InstantID model is going to need even more assistance. And so we can offer that by actually changing our checkpoint model over to be one that fits our stylistic wants better. I'm going to go ahead and change mine over from the SDXL base model to the Pixel Comic Style Safe Tensors file. And don't worry, I will go ahead and have the CivicID model link in the description below for you guys, as well as a video tutorial on how to add custom models through SSH to your instance. But just know it's going to be this Pixel Comic Styles because I want to have still a comic style on our overall image. And so now the other thing we need to adjust, though, besides our checkpoint, is going to be the actual advanced InstantID conditioning. If we take a peek at the first 2, we'll see one is IP weight and the other is CN strength. These refer to the InstantID IP adapter and control net respectively. And now since we know the IP adapter really only looks at the visual part of workflow, whereas the ControlNet is able to take in both the visual and the text embeds, if we want our image to be closer to our prompt, we're going to need to actually raise our CN strength. So just to start, I'm going to make it 0.9. For now, we can leave the IP weight alone, but we can also adjust that more if we want it to be even closer to our reference images. But that should be all we need to do for now, so let's go ahead and queue prompt and see what we get now. Wonderful. We now have two comic book style characters, and they both share a fair resemblance to our reference images. So there you have it. By using InstantID with two reference images, we successfully created a sunny image featuring both Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom. Now, although this technique will require some more finagling, we could definitely get this to be even closer. It's still a wonderful way to use the model and it opens up endless possibilities for creative projects. If you have found this tutorial helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us continue to create valuable content for you. Let us know how it worked for you and what other tutorials you'd like to see in the future. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep exploring, keep experimenting, and we'll see you in the next video.